Hi, my name is Shireen Fuqua, and I have GumBits, and I am doing a series this year. I don't know if I can keep it up because it's every single week to interview people who like and use GumBits, but to focus mainly on them and how they got in horses. And today I have TATTIE Singer that I met when you used to work for the USCF.
Yep, nice.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, and I kind of want to understand how you got to USCF and what you did with them. And now you work for Horse&Country, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I met you when I was at USCF. I've ridden in the show jumpers for years, my whole life. My mom was a horse person. And I rode as a junior, rode in college, and then decided to go get a real job and worked in New York City in marketing and found myself in sponsorship on the horse racing side for Breeders' Cup, and then managed to farm a little bit on the side and worked in some other things in nonprofit, and horses pulled me back in, and an opportunity appeared at USCF on their marketing team and sponsorship as their sponsorship manager. So I found myself in Lexington, Kentucky, working for them, and that's how I met you as well.
So the horses, when you said you grew up doing horses, what discipline?
Show jumping.
Show jumping.
Yep, I did a little bit of the children's hunters and the equitation, very little bit, but mostly found myself in the junior jumpers and all show jumping.
And how old were you when you started with horses?
Well, my mom actually had a farm that I was lucky enough to grow up on in Michigan many years ago. So I found myself sitting on a horse when I was 4.
When you were 4.
Yep.
And is your mom a professional, or was she a professional?
Yes, my mom actually used to breed conformation hunters on the line many years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you didn't just say my mother used to breed horses. You said my mother bred conformation hunters.
Yes.
So there's a real difference. Can you explain that, or?
Yeah. So in the hunters, you have the performance hunters and the conformation hunters, and so back when many years ago, more of the conformation was a bit more popular, and they were bred for how pretty they looked and how well that conformation and what they looked would end up transferring over into the competition ring. So that's what she bred for back when she did it.
Are they European breeds that she had, or how?
Back then, it was 20-30 years ago, so the European breeds and the warm bloods weren't quite as popular. So back then, it was mostly thoroughbreds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And did she ride and train the young ones as well?
She did back then. Yeah, not so much anymore, but yeah, back then she rode them and trained them and had a partner that would show them on the line, and then she'd sell them and they'd go off and do other things. And yeah, so we did that when I was little, and then she got out of that for a while, and I stayed in the horses, and then we fell into the jumpers.
So you learned how to ride on a thoroughbred, which is totally different than a warm blood, and I know that because my first horse in my mid-30s was a thoroughbred, and that horse, it was an off-the-track thoroughbred, and that horse used to take off with me bucking all the time. And honestly, it wasn't until a couple years ago that I found out that the race horses, when you pull, which I pull because I was scared, but with the race horses, if you pulled, that told them to go fast.
Yep. You're gonna pull back, that's for sure. Yep. Yeah, I actually grew up on the thoroughbreds, and my first junior jumper was actually a thoroughbred off the track. His name was CityBoy, and he was actually Kent Farrington's first junior jumper. I actually recently read an article that just came out on Horse Network that was all about Kent and his first thoroughbred. So that was also my first junior jumper.
So you think a lot of the old time hunters really rode the thoroughbreds?
Yes, more than 30 years ago, but yes, that's what it was all about.
That is really interesting. I had no idea. And I don't really pretend to know a lot about anything, actually. I know a little bit about all the disciplines that the hunters, the jumpers, the dressage. I'm starting to learn a little bit more about the Arabs. But I haven't really seen the conformation doesn't, like you said, doesn't really seem to be a big sport, or maybe I miss it because the classes are before the amateurs and juniors.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the professional division. I honestly don't know exactly how that professional hunter side works nowadays, but there's always, it's part of the professional division that goes during the week, and they model on the line, and then they jump, but it's mostly, you know, judged on their conformation and on the model as well.
And so you said you primarily do jumpers. I don't know why, but everywhere I go, I'm competing in the sound. I feel like we're at a horse show, a dressage horse show, and there's music next door. I'm just gonna stop for a sound check, because between that and who would have thought the airplane, did you see?
There was, yeah, a little bit of an airplane, yeah.
So hold that thought.
Okay.
Okay. So we're back, and I don't know, the show is over, and we are competing against the music and the covered, so I suggested that we come over here by the lake. We're over near Palm Beach Equine, and the really cool thing that we just missed that I wish we had was a hawk, wasn't it, Toddy?
Some sort of bird went in for fishing.
Yes, so the hawk went in to go fishing. So I try to do these interviews. Oh, these aren't my sunglasses. I try to do these interviews with interesting backgrounds, so people can see we're all different horse venues, so I think it's kind of fun. But we were talking about the conformation hunters, and how years ago your mother bred conformation horses that you said were primarily thoroughbreds.
Yes.
And you learned how to ride really on a thoroughbred.
Yes.
Do you think that learning how to ride on a thoroughbred makes you a stronger rider?
Yes, I think so. It definitely taught me to kind of go with the flow a lot more, and they have their own personalities, and you just have to flow, you just have to go with it. Yeah, definitely, I certainly have a type these days. I like them to take me, and kind of the hotter and the quicker they are, the better, but it's definitely something I'm grateful to have had the opportunity.
And those thoroughbreds are very sensitive. It's interesting because the GumBits started out as a dressage product because the judges judge for relaxation, and real fast the Olympians, high performance riders used it, because when the horses chew, they start to relax and soften over their backs. And I think it was about, I don't know, 10 years or so ago, it was interesting because the 3-day eventers started to buy the GumBits, and I'll never forget when I got a call from Matt Brown, who wanted to know the ingredients and make sure that it was safe to use for competition, and it is. It's just sugar and beeswax, and the beeswax works, is kind of gummy, and it stays in the horse's mouth longer than if you just give sugar cubes, because a couple years ago I met Rodrigo Pessoa, and his wife told me that he always gives sugar cubes to the horses. So I gave him a bottle to try, and I saw him a couple weeks later, and I said, so how did the gumbits work out for you? And he said he didn't know. And if you know him, he's character. And he said he didn't know because he ate the gumbits. But anyways, you mentioned when we spoke a little bit earlier that you actually like the gumbits for the young horses.
Yes, yeah. I've been lucky enough to bring along some young horses recently, and it just, I like feeding them to them as you're giving them the bridle, like in the beginning, so that they know that it's a sweet thing and it'll be a nice experience when you get on them and when you give them the gumbit and when you give them the bridle. So that's how I found to use them, and they love it. I've never had a problem.
How did you become aware of gumbits to use for the young ones?
Actually through working with you at USCF. That's how I became aware of it, and I think I had seen it before that in some rider bags at some horse shows as well.
It's kind of
so
funny because I've known you probably for about 4 years, maybe longer.
Yep.
And I think it was yesterday you actually told me that you use the gumbits, and I never even knew that. So I was like, oh good, I want to talk to you. So that's cool. Is that something you like to do? Do you get a young horse? Because you travel and you have a big corporate job and you're all over the place. So how do you find time to train the horses?
That's a great question. I don't do it as much now as I used to. So I was lucky enough to be able to be part of a family business and a farm, and to do young horses and bring them along, and that's mostly when I did it. But now I'll do it when they're about 5 or 6, and I will try to be able to show them if I feel comfortable. I'm a little bit more chicken in my older age, but you have to make time, but it is doable. I'm lucky enough to be able to work in an industry that I enjoy with horses, and all of us are really here at the end of the day because of the horses. So,
and you said you don't really do hunters.
I don't. I had a nice children's hunter many years ago,
You probably had access to some of the best hunter conformation horses, obviously with your mother.
Yeah.
But you went off to do jumpers.
Yeah, I did the children's hunter. She was a really nice conformation horse, actually. Louise Serio showed her.
That's interesting.
Many years ago, yeah. Her name was the Rain Dancer, but I was lucky enough to have her. But after that, I just kind of jumped into the jumpers and rode with Norman Dello Joio, and
but you have to say that name slower.
I rode with Norman Dello Joio growing up.
Norman
Dello Joio.
Is that a European name?
Italian.
Italian. Okay. It's kind of interesting because earlier today I introduced you to a friend, and that name came up again, and it comes up so fast that I'm like, Norman. So is he, did he do jumpers in Italy and then come to the U.S. too?
No, his last name is Italian.
He's just Italian.
And, yeah, he rides for the America, for the States. His son is Nick Dello Joio, now a Grand Prix rider. He went to the Olympics, was a bronze Olympian.
His son went to the Olympics.
No, Norman went to the Olympics.
Norman went to the Olympics. See, I told you I know nothing. That is really cool.
Yep.
I want to know the secret, because I do know more about dressage. I've spent the last 10 years learning about the hunters, but I really know nothing about the jumpers. What do you think the difference is, let's say, between just jumper amateurs versus jumper professional Olympian level? What really is the difference in the riding skill set?
It's more so focus and what your intention is, and how much time and money and effort you really put into it. In terms of the skill set, I don't know. That's a big question, Shireen. I don't know.
Well, I'm trying to figure it out personally because Kat loves the hunters. She's never going to give it up. She started doing the dressage. She loves the dressage, but now she started doing meter 40. And at first I thought I would be scared, but actually I think the higher the jump, it's not as fast that you see the kids running around doing the lower levels.
Yep. Yeah.
And what is the biggest difference, do you think? Because like with the hunters, we show a lot all the time. At the jumper level, at the high performance level like that, how do they stage their competition schedule?
I think it really depends on the horse and what their goals are and what they're looking to do. So, if you're an amateur, you want to go to certain horse shows that you enjoy, and if you have goals, maybe going to indoors or being competitive in Florida, really just depends. I think for the higher levels, it just depends if you're trying to make it onto a team.
Do they show the jumpers less frequently, I guess is my question.
Yes,
because
I would say
so. It's so much on their body, isn't it?
Yeah, they definitely show less frequently. I know in the hunters they do multiple classes a day. In the jumpers, it's usually one class a day.
Okay.
And 2 or 3 classes a week, really,
so
depending on the program.
A really big difference. And I know, I think it was a couple of summers ago, I ran into you in Lexington, and you took us to a really cool farm in Lexington. What farm was it?
It's the Peeps Foundation.
Okay, because there was some really, I remember they weren't just horses. Tell us a little bit about that foundation. Are you involved with that foundation?
A little bit here and there. It's called the Peeps Foundation. They rescue dwarf minis and various other animals, but mostly dwarf minis, rescue them, get their feet back going, and then we'll place them into forever homes.
Well, I always have so much respect for people that give up their time, and there's so many people like Danny and Ron who rescue the dogs and have a big foundation for the dogs, but I never considered a rescue for miniature horses.
Mm-hmm.
How do they find them? I mean, are there people that get miniature horses then that don't really take care of them? Yes. And then you find out about them, and this Peeps Foundation goes out, and that's really fabulous. And I think I have some videos maybe of that we can share. So that's really cool. Hey Toddy, the guys who own the place, do they live in Florida?
They're Florida and here.
Larry, he's getting jealous. No? You just have a lot of things that you do, so in a limited amount of time. I brought that up because I think during that summer you were getting back into showing, and I'm pretty sure you showed right around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was the jumpers. In my mind I thought it was hunters, but you did the jumpers. What level are you coming back at now versus what you did when you were younger?
Yeah, now I'll do the adult jumpers or the low amateurs if I'm really feeling brave. Depending
and how
on
high is that?
that's about 1.20 meters, 1.25 meters.
Okay.
Always bigger goals to do it more, but with limited time, it's hard to focus, and the jumps look a lot bigger these days.
And when you were younger, how high were you jumping?
Up to 1.40 meters, 1.45 meters.
1.45 meters. Is it scary?
I found myself in a Grand Prix, and they were very large jumps. Yes.
How old were you when you did your first Grand Prix jumper?
I think I was 20.
Oh my gosh. I always see these big jumps, and I look around now that I'm starting to go to the jumper ring more. I have to admit I did it. And I see so many women or girls doing it. And in fact, last weekend we were at Upperville, and I was just telling my daughter, wow, I mean, you see a lot of men training. And it's interesting to me how tough women are. I think you have to be really tough mentally, just to think about going on a jump and trusting that the horse is going to jump up. Because I know when I did the dressage and I wanted to go over some little cavalettes like this, my dressage horse was just like boom, boom, just knocked him over. So for me mentally, I don't think I could do that. Where do you find your mental strength, and especially at a young age?
I think it was just one of those things that I knew the horse was trained, and that's just what they did. And I was just told, this is what you do. So when you're young, you're naive, and you just listen to what people tell you to do when you're young in that age. And definitely gives you mental resilience, that's for sure.
So this Olympian who trained you, was he already an Olympian when you started training with him?
Yes.
Okay, so it was some time ago. And does he still compete at that level today? Or if he has a horse, right?
He no longer competes, he still trains. His son is Norman Dello Joio, and his son really competes at the highest level, but he still has a big training business, Wembley Farm. I think they're in Kentucky this week.
And what in your mind, when you get on your horse now, I know you told me you like to give them the gumbits and it relaxes them and softens them up, but when you do get on your horse and you're going into a course doing, you're coming back doing 1.25 meters, 1.30 meters, can you hear his instruction from years ago? And if so, what do you think is his one or two takeaway that really made a difference in your riding?
It's a great question. I hear his voice all the time. I would say usually it's like, what are you doing? Stop making it so complicated. Go jump the jump. It definitely taught me how to make things more simple, not as complicated. Let go was always a big theme. I tend to pull, just let go, and go forward, and all of those things kind of you can relate to life as well.
What about, is there real strategy on where you take off for the jump? Or does it just come up, and when you get there, maybe that's why he's telling you to let go?
Exactly.
So the horse can
let go and let the horse figure it out.
And the horse has to really stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And did your mother jump that high too?
She did. Not quite that high, but she did. For a period, we were both competing. She did the adults, what would be the Masters division today, and I did the junior jumpers many years ago now. You're bringing back a lot of memories today, Shireen.
I try to trip people up. And you said that your mother recently sold the family farm, and so that's a big emotional change. And does she still train or breed or?
Yep, yeah, we still have some young horses. They're all jumpers now. There are some babies, 4- or 6-year-olds. So we'll see what they end up being. You never know.
That's crazy. because of course the young ones are really the more scarier ones, I think. Right?
They are, but if you take your time, it's fun to see where they go.
Well, I feel very honored that you use the GumBits in your young horse training, but now I'm going to shift again, and Horse&Country. So, for people who don't know what Horse&Country is, they really came in strong to the U.S., what, 2 years ago?
About 2.5 years ago. Yep.
And it took me a long time, and I have to admit I did some advertising with them, and it took me a long time to understand what is Horse&Country. Now in Europe, everybody knows who Horse&Country is, and I talked to, was it Richard?
Yes, Richard Burdett. Yep.
Richard Burdett, one of the really top guys in the company, and it's I remember getting a phone call. It was really exciting. Maybe it was last year. I got a phone call because YouTube became a platform, right?
Yes, we actually became, so we're a streaming company, and we have live streams and various post-produced content, and our Horse&Country channel is actually on Vizio televisions, and I think you're referring to Xfinity is one of the platforms that carries our Agency Plus app, actually. Yep.
And I think what you're doing now and what your company is doing is so important to our sport, because just 10 years ago, I mean, you know, the normal audience really didn't have access to watch or learn much about the sport, and now it's so neat with and maybe even COVID helped. Everybody's videotaping. But what's important for us to learn more and to keep up with the sport, that Horse&Country really, when you say stream, they actually go to the shows and videotape the competitions. What are some of the big ones that you do here in the U.S.?
Yeah, we live stream lots of various different shows across Europe and in the U.S. We're actually going to be doing dressage at Devon this fall, as well as Mars Great Meadow. We're known as Agency, the home of eventing. We have 5 of the 7 5-stars across the world, so that's very exciting. And we have done, we did the Ridge Turf Tour from Wellington this past year, so we've various competitions here in the States and abroad. We're actually doing Le Moulin this weekend. Was a big 4- and 5-star event from Germany as well.
And so you subscribe to the channel, you subscribe.
Yep.
And then you can just go on and have a library and just pick and choose what you want to watch.
Exactly. We're a subscription service. That's Agency Plus, and you can go on your app, on your phone, or on the web, and you can pick and choose. We have live streams. We have various post-produced content as well. We have master classes. We just did one on how to create a freestyle with Collier Wimmer, actually, on the dressage space. And we have one coming out soon.
It just sounds, it's so TV. It's like,
it's very TV.
From a girl that grew up on a farm with a mother training conformation horses to now, I understand you got a big promotion in the last week or two, taking over North America. It sounds just really exciting. I mean, did you ever think that you were going to be doing TV with horses?
No, not at all. No, I never thought I'd end up on the media side of the business, to be honest. No. But, at the end of the day, we're all here because we love these horses, we love the animals, and we love the sport, whichever discipline it is. Obviously, the high performance is near and dear to both of our hearts. And I'm just trying to grow it and to see where, at the end of the day, everybody has a story about how a horse affected them. And Most people today know how to turn on a TV or an app or a streaming platform. So you can combine the two things. Why not?
Or an iPhone.
Or an iPhone, exactly.
And so you have lived outside Boston since I've known you, Lexington, and recently you just moved to Wellington. Tell me something different that nobody knows about Wellington, because now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Wow, something that nobody knows about Wellington. Okay, let's see. Well, Wellington hasn't always been what it is today.
Yes.
I was here as a kid many years ago. The Wellington Mall popped up, I would say, 15, 20 years ago.
So
that wasn't
doesn't
always
count.
here.
Really
are putting me on the spot, Shireen.
Am.
Wellington has some great golf courses that people don't always think
Those
about.
are for the people that don't do horses. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you. Do you ever find yourself driving down the road and maybe an alligator is walking across the street?
Yes, actually.
I mean, for real. Like,
no, for real.
I'm trying to help you out here so
Okay.
that I'm making it up in my
Here's
head.
a great one. So, yes, there are alligators everywhere if you're riding a horse down the canals.
That's why my feet are up here, because Charlie Moorcroft has his barn here, and he always posts alligators. And so I'm looking around going, okay, if one comes out.
Yes, one thing actually about Wellington is that there is all the canals that people see. There's actually a levee that goes from Wellington, I believe, all the way down to Miami.
See, I didn't know that.
To via Palm Beach Point, and I have some friends that ride their bikes down the levee in the mornings and see lots of alligators. That is a sight to be seen.
And what is the story crossing the street? Did you see an alligator cross the street?
I have seen an alligator cross the street.
Were you on your bike?
I was on a horse, actually.
Oh, is that scary?
Usually the horse would do a 360. So yes, that time they just stood. I could feel the heart beating.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. But yeah, the alligators are everywhere. You never know where you're going to see in Wellington.
And good thing you know how to ride a thoroughbred.
Exactly.
Just in case
Because you know how to stick to a spin. That's for sure.
Anyways, you've been really awesome. I was hoping in our time in front of the lake that we would get another hawk come down and go fishing, because that was really, really cool just now, but we missed it. And I'm really glad we're not seeing any alligators, and well, at least any real alligators
At this moment.
Yes.
They could be sunning themselves down there, little do we know.
But I really appreciate your time today, and wow, I really feel like the luckiest person, because I get to meet so many really neat people with different backgrounds, and yours is really cool, and you're so young, and you have so much more in your future that I can't wait to see if you're gonna come out and do meter 45 again.
We shall see. I don't know. Not happening anytime soon. But thank you, Shireen. This has been fun.
Thank you so much, Richard. I said
I will. Thank
okay,
you.
bye.